Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analog Toys YouTube channel and live stream number 3. Now you'll notice that I'm not in the collection room today. This is a functional household. Excuse me. This is a functional household. I'm married to a beautiful wife and I have a 13-year-old son. Now the last couple of live streams I've done at 8 a.m. My son's normally still in bed and my wife's at work. Doing this at 8 p.m. I've got to do it. I've got to do it in this here in the studio because the collection room, which is on the top floor of the house, is right outside the bedroom. And at some time during this live stream, I'm pretty sure my wife will be going to bed, and I don't want to be nattering away to you guys on the live stream and keeping her up. So I moved the live stream down here. Eric, good to see you. Uncle Deluxe, morning from the Isle of Man. It's evening here. It's evening, and cheers. It's Saturday night in Australia. I'm having a beer. Gary's Action Man channel. Hi, how you going, Gary? DS Modeler, good morning from Bethlehem, PA. That's Pennsylvania, I believe. Dial, hey from Canada. How you going? Good to see you. All right, guys. So, as usual, we did a poll on the Patreon page where I think I gave up four discussion topics this week. I always said that these would be the first few live streams anyway would always be about Action Man, and some of the options I offered up. Oh, excuse me. There's a bloody fly in the room. That's going to drive me nuts. Yeah, I offered up a number of different. Discussion options for the live stream topic. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what they were. I think it was the Action Man team, the Action Man emergency series. That's one I really want to do, but people don't seem to vote on it. I can't remember what the third one is, but I offered a new topic this week, and that was Tony's vintage 12-inch G.I. Joe collection, and that got the overwhelming vote. Can you guys see that bloody fly? It's very hot here in Australia at the moment. We're coming into. I live in a very hot part of Australia anyway. We're coming into the hottest part of the year, and like just trying to keep every time you open the door to the house, bloody flies come in. So apologies for that. It's going to drive me nuts. Okay, let's catch up with some comments. Greetings from Brooklyn, New York. DG Dugmon, nice to see you. Shane Morris, good morning from Columbia, South Carolina. Hello. Michael Schaefer, good evening. Michael Schaefer, pleasure to see you here, mate. I really appreciate it. Christian Arias, good morning, Tony. Good morning. Knight of Ren, good morning from the Tennessee, USA. Knight of Ren, good to see you back again. Brick and Tire, good morning from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I said this last time in the live stream. There's a lot of viewers from Pennsylvania. I don't know why that is. Uncle Deluxe, flies in Australia go together like peanut butter and jelly. Yes, they do. There are a lot of flies in Australia. Beardo 267 Gaming, g'day mate, g'day. How you going, buddy? 1980s and Star Wars guy. It's quite cold over here in Britain. Hello from a 12-year-old in Wales. Good to see you here, mate. All the way from Wales. Sorry about the World Cup on the Rugby World Cup. I know you guys sort of missed out the other day, and unfortunately England just lost very recently. So, Super Robots. Hello from Kuwait. I've been to Kuwait before. Beautiful, beautiful country. Lucas Petty, hi from Britain, Darlington. Knight of Ren. The season difference from the US to Australia always was crazy to me. Yeah, so here in Australia, our summertime is over Christmas. Obviously, for me growing up in the UK, summertime was, June, July, August. That was summertime, and Christmas was really cold. Here in Australia, it's complete different. Christmas days in Australia, when you're with your family, try and go around to someone's house someone's got a swimming pool because it gets really hot, and you buy all the kids pool toys and you jump in the swimming pool and play a bit of cricket and stuff like that. Brick and Tire, there's a strong retro toy community in PA. Every year we have a retro con that has become very large over the past few years. Well, Brick and Tire, if I ever travel to the United States, I'll try and work out the date so that I can come and visit the retro toy con in Pennsylvania, because I'd love that. I'd love to meet a few of you guys in person. Christopher Perez, good morning, Tony from Texas. Good morning from Australia. Well, good evening, I should say. It's just after 8 p.m. here. Lucas Petty, good to see you. All right, let's get talking about G.I. Joe, I suppose. So, as keen viewers of the channel will know, my favourite toy line, hands down, my favourite toy line of all time is Action Man. And aside from Action Man, most of the toys that I collect, that I have up in the collection room, are toys that have some sort of connection with my childhood, whether I had them or wanted them and didn't have them or something like that. G.I. Joe is the real exception here, because when I was a kid, I didn't know anything about G.I. Joe. I thought Action Man was just Action Man. But for those of you who don't know the story, I'm sure a lot of you do, the 12-inch G.I. Joe figure first came out in 1964 in the United States, and it was a massive, massive hit. And sometime around 1965, a marketing guy from the British toy company Palitoy travelled to the United States, picked up a couple of G.I. Joe figures and took them home for his, for his grandson. Brought them back to the UK, a couple of his G.I. Joe figures, and his grandson absolutely loved these. So he took them into Palitoy headquarters and said, hey, there's this toy line in the States where they're making like these 12-inch action soldier, action sailors, with all these different accessories. This is something potentially that would go over well in the British market. So the first couple of years of Action Man, they just brought G.I. Joe products over to the United Kingdom and rebranded them as Action Man. So having that connection to my favourite toy line of all time has really, really got me interested in G.I. I mean, I started getting heavily interested in G.I. Joe back in the mid-90s. And now I have a modest collection of vintage G.I. Joes. This isn't everything. The table was not big enough. I did take a bit of a list here, so I could kind of talk to you guys about what I do have. I counted up yesterday. I've got 22 vintage G.I. Joe figures. They're all 1960s. I don't have any Adventure Team stuff or anything like that, anything from the 70s. It's all 1960s stuff. But yeah, it's because it was the inspiration for Action Man is what really draws me to G.I. Joe, vintage 12-inch G.I. Joe, and particularly the 60s stuff, when it was still military before it got into all the adventure thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but Diakopfer, I didn't read your question, but I kind of just answered it. No, I don't have any Adventure Team. I've had a couple of figures in the past, and I've always traded them for other Action Man items or other collectibles. The only G.I. Joe stuff I have is 60s, from like 64 to about 67, I think. Which is weird, because that's 10, 12, 13 years before I was even born. But I love my G.I. Joes. Christopher Perez, I wish Hasbro would make an Indiana Jones in the vintage G.I. Joe Action Man scale. So do I, mate. I've commented in a number of videos that I wish Palitoy had have made an Indiana Jones figure, because Action Man, it had all of the German army soldiers that Indy could fight, and the line was already set up to just bring one character in, and everything else was already there. Dial, so all painted hair. Do you have a preference between painted and flocked hair? I don't really have a preference between painted and flocked hair, but I do have a real appreciation for the original painted hair figures, and just the workmanship. The workmanship that was around in the 60s. I think even from the Action Man line, if you look at all the outfits that came out over the years, the original 1960s stuff was the best quality tailoring, the best quality fabrics, Just the craftsmanship that was involved in designing these toys was just off the chain. Joseph Corbell, do you have repro stuff? I have some repro items in my collection. Obviously, that's a bit of a topic at the moment because I've just recently done a couple of videos on repro toys. I have a couple of repro items in my collection, a couple of Action Man repros. I've got some vintage like Star Wars vehicles that I've put repro stickers on. I don't really see an issue with that. When the stickers are all gone and you want to restore the toy, that's fair enough. But from what's on the table here, 100%, there is not one single repro item on this table in front of me. This is all genuine 60s vintage G.I. Joe. Alright, so I'm going to talk through a few of these figures. Now, as I said before, I've got my collection of vintage G.I. Joe. I have 22 different figures. So I was unable to bring them all down and put them all out on the table. So I thought I'd just select a bit of a different range. And I've got one guy at the back here, which is the fully loaded G.I. Joe Combat Soldier. Now, I already sort of waxed politic about this, the Action Man version of this in the last live stream. So I'm not going to talk too much about him again, but just for proof that I do have both the Action Man and the G.I. Joe one, let's give you a good look at that. Let's see. The big difference with this one, he's got the G.I. Joe name tag on the above the pocket of his jacket. The fully loaded field pack with entrenching tool and tent and sleeping bag and all that gear, the M1 rifle and the bayonet. A tremendous figure, one of my favourites. So I had to bring him down today and show him off. Okay. Super Robots. I'm a toy collector of many toys from the 70s and 80s, but never collected any of the Action Man figures nor G.I. Joe. I think I'm going to start collecting them now. It's a very, very big line to collect. If you're going to start collecting them, my advice to you is to just pick like a certain series of figures or focus on a certain year. If you're going to collect either Action Man or G.I. Joe, the toy lines are massive, and that's a rabbit hole that can be quite expensive to go down. Michael Schaefer, the level of detail is still incredible to me. It's still incredible to me every single day I walk past these. As I said, the collection room's right outside my bedroom. I get up in the morning, have a shower, head off for work, and I have to walk through my collection room to get downstairs to the car and go to work. And yeah, the what was it you said? Yeah, the level of detail still amazes me. So yeah, I had to bring down my G.I. Joe fully loaded combat soldier to show you guys. Is anyone else having a beer? I want to know if anyone else is having a beer. Cheers. I hope you viewers in the States aren't, because I think it's like pretty early in the morning over there. So, Leonard Lee, hi Tony, good morning. I was wondering if you would do a video on Clash of the Titans toys. Leonard Lee, I would love to do a video on Clash of the Titans toys, but I don't have any Clash of the Titans toys. And one of the things with my channel, I could do videos on toys that I don't have, but I don't like that because you've got to steal images from the internet. I'm very fussy about the quality of the imagery I put up on screen. I like to upload, I mean the live streams go up in 720p, but I like all of my normal videos to go up in 1080p, high definition. So if I'm going to do a video about a toy line, whether it be Clash of the Titans or whatever, I need to have the toys in my collection where that I can film them to the standard with the right kind of lighting and everything that the standard that I accept for analog toys. And it's very difficult for me to do that with a toy line that I don't have, where you kind of got to steal images from eBay or other places on the internet. So, Michael Schaefer, you're drinking coffee, but I guess I can throw in a touch of whiskey so you're not alone. Don't worry about me feeling alone. That's fine. I'm all good. Christopher Perez, I heard there was once a G.I. Joe Action Man nurse release. Is that true or an urban legend? No, that's true. So it wasn't for Action Man, but around 67 or 60, around 1967, I think. At the time, the G.I. Joe line was so incredibly popular. Obviously, it would take quite a bit of nosedive later in the 60s due to the backlash from the Vietnam War, but the G.I. Joe line was so popular, and as they've done with a number of other toy lines, like you take sort of He-Man and then the She-Ra toy line. When a toy line gets that popular, the toy company thinks, hey, how can we market this to young girls? So G.I. Joe did bring out a nurse. It is probably the rarest G.I. Joe figure ever made. I believe like mint box ones go for upwards of like $15,000. Yeah, they made a G.I. Joe nurse. Came in a nice sort of window box display similar to the Soldiers of the World. But unfortunately, it was in the same toy aisle in the toy stores as the G.I. Joe stuff. So the boys weren't interested. They wanted the Green Berets and the German Stormtroopers. And the girls never saw them because they didn't walk down the G.I. Joe aisle. They were too busy in Barbie aisle. So, no, it's not an urban legend. It's 100% true. Michael Schaefer, 15k. Yeah, that sounds about right. 15k for a mint box G.I. Joe nurse. Uncle Deluxe got a cup of tea here. I hope it's a good English tea, good Yorkshire tea or something like that. So, Juan Carlos Riobo, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Hi there from Spain. Do you know about Guyperman action figure? It was the GI Joe's Spanish license. Yes, I'm well aware of. I think you pronounce it Hipperman. Hipperman. Us Westerners call it Guyperman. I'm very, very aware of Guyperman. I've got a few Guyperman catalogues. I don't think I've got any Guyperman stuff now. I've had a few Guyperman items over the years. But for the Spanish market, again, a lot of the stuff was sort of... So Action Man copied G.I. Joe, and then in the European market, be it Action Team or Guyperman, they often copied Action Man. But Guyperman actually brought out a couple of quite unique outfits just for the Spanish market, which are quite collectible today. So, 1980s Star Wars guy. Would there need to be a 007 and the A-Team in the G.I. Joe style? I would have loved it if Palitoy had have made a James Bond Action Man figure back in the day, with Action Man being this British brand and James Bond or 007, whatever you call it, being a British franchise. I think that would have been awesome if Palitoy had brought out an Action Man James Bond figure. Lucas Petty, Tony, which is the better, the G.I. Joe Japanese or the Action Man German Stormtrooper? Oh, I'm going to have to go with the Action Man German Stormtrooper, but since you mention him, let's get out the Japanese Imperial Soldier. I'm incredibly, incredibly fond of this figure. It's really unique. He has a unique face sculpt. Let's see if you guys can see that. So the face sculpt on this figure is obviously all Japanese looking, Oriental looking. That's one of the very unique things about him. But the uniform is exquisite. The accessories are amazing. His rifle, he's got a sword bayonet, which I don't like to fiddle around with this. I don't want to break it, but he has a sword bayonet, which you can see just there. Can you see that well? A really, really awesome accessory. The Japanese Imperial Soldier. I did almost, when I was sort of picking a few figures to bring down. So I've got the complete collection of G.I. Joe Soldiers of the World or Soldiers of the... I always get confused with that name, whether it's the Soldiers of the World or the Soldiers of the Century, because like one was G.I. Joe and one was Action Man, and they kind of changed the name. But there was a series of 6 with the Japanese Imperial Soldier, the British Commando, the Australian Jungle Fighter, the French Resistance Fighter, the Russian Infantry, and the German Stormtrooper. And I did bring my G.I. Joe German Stormtrooper down here. And the table was getting quite full, and I thought, you know what? I talked at length about my Action Man Stormtrooper in the last live stream, so he can go back upstairs. And instead of the German Stormtrooper, I took him back upstairs and I brought this guy down instead. This is one of my favourite outfits of all time, whether it be Action Man or G.I. Joe, and that is the Ski Patrol outfit. Joseph Corbell, why did Palatoy not have a Japanese soldier? If you go onto my channel page, Joseph, and go onto the channel page and do a search for the Story of Action Man bonus features. I actually asked that question to the Action Man brand manager when I was filming my Action Man documentary, and he answers that question far better than I ever can. So jump on there and have a look at that video. Lost and Wallace, the artwork on the older G.I. Joe boxes were amazing. I wish the figures came in boxes instead of blister pack cards. Yeah, the boxes were amazing. Here I've got the G.I. Joe Action Soldier and Action Sailor. I've got the original 4, so I've got the Marine and the Pilot as well, and I'll probably talk to you about those guys in a minute. But Lucas Petty, when is the next live stream? I don't know, guys. I don't know when the next live stream is. Like, I probably want to do this around once a month or once every 3 weeks. I don't want to overcook it because yeah, there's quite a bit of effort goes into a live stream, getting it all set up, finding the right time of day. I have to sort of, speak with my family and make sure they're okay for me to, if I'm doing it at a time like this, that I'm not, I live in a house with the rest of my family, and they need to be able to have free reign of the house and not have to worry about being quiet and disturbing the audio of my live stream and stuff. So, but yeah, I do really enjoy the live streams, but I want to keep them a little bit special, and I think by doing them a little bit too often, it would people might tune out and not be too interested in them. I don't know. So I think I'll just do them. Maybe every 3 to 4 weeks. What's your favourite G.I. Joe vehicle that had something unique about it from the Action Man one, if there was one at all? The Adventure Team mission vehicle, I think they called it, the big yellow thing. I thought that was amazing. I can't remember the name. We discussed that as well in the last live stream, and I think Joseph told me what it was called. But the Adventure Team, the big special mission vehicle or whatever it was. But let's talk for a moment about the Ski Patrol. I love this. I mean, I'm really big into any sort of figure or outfit that has a vastly different colour to any of the others, so it really makes it pop on my collector's shelf. And let's give you a good look at that. That is the G.I. Joe Ski Patrol. You could get this outfit was actually made out of a couple of different sets. So this one has got the snowshoes there. You could also get a set with skis and ski poles. So I've got an Action Man and a G.I. Joe one of these, so I display my Action Man one with the skis and ski poles, and my G.I. Joe one with the snowshoes. He's also got the same backpack as the combat soldier, but all in white. And I've also accessorized this with an entrenching tool. He's got hand grenades, a cartridge belt, a water bottle. Obviously the traditional, the G.I. Joe dog tag. How well can you see that? Let's have a look. The G.I. Joe dog tag. Speaking of G.I. Joe dog tags, I'm just going to put him back there for a moment. Yeah, speaking of G.I. Joe dog tags, I'm sure there'll be some people who are going to shout out that the Soldiers of the World or the Soldiers of the Century, as I said, I always get those names mixed up, but like the Japanese and the German. I did a full video where I reviewed all 6 of these figures a while back. Again, guys, don't wait for YouTube to just have my videos flash up in your browse page. If you like the videos that we make here at Analog Toys, go over to the channel page and scroll through the entire video library. We've got like 100, and we just did a 100th video not long ago, so we're up to about 101, 102 videos now. Yeah, scroll back through, have a look through our back catalogue. I did a good, like, I think it was about a 10-15 minute video on the G.I. Joe Soldiers of the World, Soldiers of the Century. And a number of people commented saying that they've got the dog tags on. They said, oh, those figures never came with dog tags. Well, I know they didn't come with dog tags, but I display, as you can see, all of my vintage G.I. Joes have dog tags, and I like the way they look with the vintage G.I. Joe dog tags. So I've even put them on my Japanese Imperial Soldier. So, Matt Ludi, I had the Action Man Desert Tank, and that was my favourite. Action Man never made a desert tank that I remember, but Shirley, which was a rival company that didn't make figures, they made blow molded vehicles. They made some desert tanks. I wonder if you're thinking about the Shirley desert tank, because Action Man never actually had one. Michael Lomax, hello from the UK, and what have I missed? Not much, mate. We've been going for... we've been going for 28 minutes. So, man, this time flies by when you're doing these live streams, I tell you. Yeah, anything that can fight in harsh winter is always a favourite of mine. Well done, Dial. Lost and Wallace, did the G.I. Joe with the Cheeks car... Sorry, I think you might have spelt something wrong there. I'm getting a bit confused. Be it have a special name or operations distinction. Okay, your comment's gone past. Apologies, Lucas. Loston. Lucas Petty, Tony, my favourite Action Man is the Eagle Eyes, and my favourite G.I. Joe is the Kung Fu Grip. I've got far too many favourites. I like the Eagle Eyes because I grew up with them. I also like the Gripping Hands Action Man, which is the Kung Fu Grip G.I. Joe, all that kind of thing. George Alexander, I was born in 1970, never heard of G.I. Joe until the 80s, was too much into Migos and Star Wars figures. Well, I'm into Migos and Star Wars figures as well, so... Okay, the questions are going thick and fast now, I can't really keep up. Punisher XS, good to see you here, man. Hi, I'm from Scotland, love your channel. Thanks very much, mate, appreciate it. Dog Soldier, recently discovered that one of my painted in Action Man was actually a Canadian G.I. Joe. That's not uncommon, Dog Soldier. The reason being that when Action Man first came out in 1966 in the UK, it was so popular that it was selling out everywhere. And what Palitoy did is they imported a number of G.I. Joe figures just to dress them in clothes and put them in boxes and get them out to toy shops. And I believe a lot of those were actually Canadian G.I. Joes, and you can tell by the manufacturer's stamp on the back of the figure. Ski Patrol looks like a Hoth Rebel Trooper. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, to me, he just looks like an American World War II Winter Soldier, but yeah, maybe. I don't know what makes him look like Hoth Star Wars, but... Gary's Action Man channel. G.I. Joe Adventure Team figures were released on the Action Man brand in the mid-70s. Oh, I didn't know that. Kevin Kelly, no love for the Adventure Team, Tony. No, I've got a lot of love for the Adventure Team. It's just, when you collect as many different toy lines as I do, it's one of those... The Adventure Team's a very big line, and I do love the Adventure Team. I'd love to have the full set of the... original box figures, so the Land Adventurer, Sea Adventurer, Air Adventurer. I'd love to have the Talking Commander. There's a lot of the sets I would like to get as well, Hunt for the White Tiger and all that. But yeah, when you collect as many different toy lines as I do, it's difficult to branch off and go, I'm going to start collecting the Adventure Team now, because that's a whole nother world of collecting. So... Alan Dawson, just a quick hello, Tony. I'm driving to Essex for tomorrow's Action Man Day, so cannot watch live. We'll catch up later. Alan, have a fantastic time at Action Man Day in Essex. Hope you pick up some bargains, maybe sell a few things, whatever it is. Have a great time, and I'm sure we'll speak soon, mate. Cheers. Gary's Action Man channel. Tom Stone, Bullet Man, Atomic Man, and the Intruder Adventure Team. Okay, now I know. Yeah, so they brought it over as the Action Man team. That was actually one of the the discussion topics for the Patreons to vote on for the live stream, I was going to talk about the Action Man team, which consisted of Bullet Man, Atomic Man, which in the States was Mike Powers' Atomic Man, the Intruder, Tom Stone, and I think the other member of the Action Man team was the Desert Fighter, weirdly enough. Unusual choice for a figure, but... John O'Donovan, love the channel, especially Toy Histories. Thanks very much, John. Appreciate it. IDF Tony, do you have any of the Brazilian figures? No, I don't have any. I believe it was called Falcon in Brazil. I don't have any of those. Adventure Team is my favourite. I love the headquarters and the sarcophagus, which was from Secret of the Mummy's Tomb, I believe. When it comes to Repro, my Adventure Team stickers need some replacements. Yeah, guys. Actually, speaking of Repro, and obviously everyone knows my stance on Repro now. I did say at the start that nothing on this table is reproduction. Unless you think that a thin strip of black elastic is reproduction, because all the G.I. Joe weapons and some of the accessories had elastic straps for slings. Obviously, elastic stretches over time, it begins to perish, and it falls apart, and I've replaced the elastic. Now, if that means that my toy is no longer original, well, I don't care. I would rather have, the strap looking nice with some fresh elastic, nice and tight the way it was supposed to, than this saggy, rotten, decrepit rifle sling, because you want to hang on to... I mean, if you collect vintage cars and the tyres are completely dry, rotten and falling apart, are you not going to put new tyres on it? Does that mean that it's still not an original vintage car because you put new tyres on it? It doesn't make sense to me. Inside Vintage Toys. Oh no, not Repro Elastic. Yes, mate, Repro Elastic. And I feel the same way about stickers sometimes, but there you go. All right, so how many figures have we talked about so far? All right, I'm going to get out... Now, this is probably my favourite G.I. Joe. I think, I like the fully loaded Action Man Combat Soldier and the G.I. Joe Combat Soldier. And this is very, very similar. This is the G.I. Joe Action Marine, the fully loaded Combat Marine. All the same accessories as the Action Man one. So he's got, the backpack with the entrenching tool and the tent and the poncho, all that kind of thing. But everything apart from the backpack is camouflaged. I just think they look tremendous. And I think I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we've got about 5 sort of loose Action Marine figures. Let's give you a good look at him. He's a gorgeous, gorgeous figure. Now you can see all the equipment on his back there, with the entrenching tool and poncho rolled up across the bottom. Yeah, there's something about the G.I. Joe Action Marines that I just love. So I've got this guy. I've got the Beachhead Assault, the Marine Paratrooper, I think it is, Marine Communications, and the Marine Armoured Car Commander. And then I've got the original boxed G.I. Joe Marine as well. Gary's Action Man channel. How long on average does it take to plan and film your videos? Gary, it really depends on the video. So I most of my feature videos, I write a script. That's the hardest part for me. I have the idea in my head and I know what I want to say, but I don't actually enjoy sitting down at a computer and typing the script, but I have to do that. Yeah, so the script writing takes a long time. I mean, the recent Evil Knievel video, I was actually working on that on and off for like 3 months, from writing the script and one of the things that delayed that was acquiring the toys. But then there are other videos that for one reason or another just fall together pretty easily. And I'm actually working on a video at the moment on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That'll be dropping on the Patreon probably towards the end of the week. But that one, I only got the idea for it yesterday. Started writing the script yesterday afternoon, finished the script this morning, filmed most of the principal photography today. Was then able to quickly get all the B-roll filmed before this, and I've downloaded all the footage to my computer. And then tomorrow I'll start editing. I think I've edited a little bit of it already, but I've got a long way to go in the edit. So that'll get finished later this week. Christopher Perez would like to see the G.I. Joe Real American Hero characters made in a vintage G.I. Joe Action Man style. Rock and Roll and Breaker would be characters would definitely get. Gung Ho would translate well too. Yeah, I've often been tempted to sort of make custom versions of I mean, I'm a big fan of the Flint character. I really like Flint. I like Duke. I've often been tempted to sort of make custom Action Mans of those particular characters. Beachhead, I think Beachhead would be a great figure to make in the Action Man line as a custom. So, okay, wow, that's quick. What do you mean, wow, that's quick? What, Evil Knievel took 3 months? Was that quick? Or I think that was pretty slow. That's one of the longest videos, apart from obviously my Action Man documentary, which took like a year and a half, that one. But Vaman Vintage Action Man Restored. Hi Tony, great work. Great to see you on here, Vaman. Bill Pagan, hello from Alabama. Hey Bill, I didn't know you were from Alabama, but yeah, great to see you on here. Joshua, good to see you back, mate. Oh, you spoke the other day. Can't wait for the Ninja Turtles video. The 80s monster movie kid is excited for it. I'm pretty happy I've finally got a Ninja Turtles video. It's not a Toy Histories episode. I do intend to make a full-blown Toy Histories, like documentary style episode one day on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But this is just I'm not going to spill the beans on what it is. You can wait till later in the week and see what this Ninja Turtles video is all about. Matt Ludi, do you own one of the Action Man radio sets, the green one that had batteries? Yes, I do. I've got a boxed Action Man Field Commander that had the radio, and then I think I've got another one or two of the radios loose as well. David Payne, g'day Tony, g'day David. I had the original orange suit Frogman with the inflatable dinghy and rubber shark. How many scuba variations of G.I. Joe or Action Man have there been? Oh, there've been quite a few. So I know in G.I. Joe, like the original Action Sailor was in black, then in the Adventure Team it went blue, but I think with the Adventure Team it really went off in some other directions. There's some quite rare ones. I think there's like a tanned Frogman suit from one of the Adventure Team sets. I don't remember the name of it, which I believe is quite rare, quite difficult to get today. So, Bill Coonigan, what do you think of Big Jim? I get asked this question so many times, man. I like Big Jim. I'm never going to collect it because I don't really have a nostalgic collection to it. It doesn't have a childhood connection to it. But I do have a friend with a really awesome Big Jim collection in Perth, and the next time I travel down there, as I know I've said this numerous times, I'm going to have to keep this promise one day. The next time I go down there for any decent length of time, I want to do a video on Big Jim toys. Is there a particular Action Man idea, vehicle or playset that wasn't made that you wished had been released? Yeah, I kind of answered that question in the last live stream as well, and that is the Action Man Africa Corps officer's uniform. They did Palatoy made a prototype of that outfit, but it never actually got released. Joshua, your channel has been very educational. I never heard of Action Man until I started watching your videos. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're gleaning some information from my hobby. Anthony, greetings, sir. I'm just joining in from the Philippines. Awesome to have you here, Anthony. Whatever you've missed, you can always watch back on the replay. Christopher Perez, thanks to Big Jim, because of him we have Battle Cat, and that's 100% true. And I talked about that in my Toy Histories episode on Masters of the Universe, where when they first brought out the first wave of Masters of the Universe toys, they were looking to sell items at various different price points. So obviously you had the figures at the lowest price point, the vehicles at the medium price point, and then Castle Grayskull at the Christmas present level price point. They were looking to get something else in there, and they went through their back catalogue and they found the Tiger from the big Jim on the Tiger Trail set. And then some wacky guy at Mattel just went, hey, slap a saddle on him and yet that can be He-Man's horse. So that's where it comes from. Lost and Wallace, thank you so much for interacting with your subscriber fans, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and love of toys with us. I really look forward to all of your videos. Well, Lost, and it's my absolute pleasure, like, to interact with you guys. You're all into the same stuff that I am. Like, you guys are my mates, so I really look forward to these live streams. This isn't work for me. This is a hobby, and I really enjoy this, sitting down and having a chat with like-minded collectors all over the world. It's an absolute pleasure, so no need to thank me. Keith Holmesley, I'm here because of Retroblasting. Analog Toys is a great channel. Yes, and so is Retroblasting. Retroblasting was actually the inspiration for this channel. I'd made my my Action Man documentary feature film, which, you know, I spent like 18 months, 2 years of my life making that film. And then after there, I really sort of had no direction. And then one day I just stumbled across Retroblasting on YouTube and thought, yeah, I should get, you know, I don't know why I'd never thought of making YouTube videos before, but Retroblasting was my inspiration. A lot of respect to Michael French, and yeah, great channel. Guys, I'm sure if you're watching my channel that you know who they are. If you're not, do yourselves a favour and go and subscribe to Retroblasting. Timothy Ward, good to see you here, mate. Sorry for the delayed arrival, family obligations and all. I'll restart from the beginning later today. No worries, Timothy. I'm glad you could at least catch some of the live stream live. Vanman, can you bring the combat soldier to the front so we can see it, please? Oh, Vanman, I brought the combat soldier to the front at the start of the live stream and you missed it, so you might have to catch on the replay. But just for you, very, very quickly, because I've got to move on to another figure. We're on a tight schedule here. Just for Van Am, one more time, there's my fully loaded G.I. Joe Combat Soldier. And he is fully loaded. He's got the field pack, the tent. He doesn't have the poncho. He's missing the poncho. But the entrenching tool and all that stuff. So, all right, let's get another guy out here. So, from the first, when G.I. Joe first came out in 1964, there was a lot of talk at Hasbro. So Don Levine, who's the creative designer at Hasbro, when he was first sort of pitching the G.I. Joe concept to Merrill Hassenfeld, the company founder, or company owner, I should say, what he always envisioned was to make sort of 4 lines of G.I. Joe figures, and that was going to be the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, and the Marines. And at one point, he was told, "No, you know, let's hedge our bets a little bit here and play it a little bit safe, and let's just do the soldier and not worry about the others." And Don was adamant. He said, "No, if we don't come out with an all-encompassing brand that covers the pilots, the sailors, the Marines, the soldiers, someone else will come in and muscle in on their territory. And, you know, if G.I. Joe was just the soldier, another company, would be Ideal or whoever it was going to come in the following year and do the sailors and the pilots or something else." So he stood firm, and I'm really glad he did. So what we got in 1964 was the Action Soldier, the Action Sailor, the Action Pilot, and the Action Marine. And probably my favourite G.I. Joe sailor outfit is this Shore Patrol set. I absolutely love this set. Again, I've said it before, I'm really into figures that have a different colour scheme with their uniforms, figures that really pop on a collector's shelf. Yeah, one of my favourite G.I. Joes. I've had this for a number of years now. I'll give you guys, I'm staring at it over here. I'm being all selfish. I'm going to let you guys have a look at that. How does that look up on the screen there? I'm very particular about the way figures stand and everything. I just had to move his helmet there. I didn't like the way he's wearing his helmet. But this is a beautiful uniform. Really, really gorgeous uniform. One of my favourites. Michael Mercy, good to see you here, mate. Nice. And seems like there's a lot of people on here who are fans of your channel. I'm not surprised. Gary's Action Man channel. Is there any difference between G.I. Joe Scramble Pilot and the Action Man version? Like slight variations in the types of material. Obviously, the logo on the helmet. One says G.I. Joe, one says Action Man, but not a great deal. Not a great deal of difference between the two Scramble Pilots. I did used to own a G.I. Joe Scramble Pilot, and I traded that one time. I'm trying to think what I traded it for. But I had the Action Man Scramble Pilot, so I was happy to trade off the G.I. Joe one. Dial, hey Michael, just bought a bunch of Visionaries yesterday and blaming your great videos. Yeah, awesome, Dial. So you've watched Michael Mercy's videos on Visionaries, and it's inspired you to go out and start collecting some. So that's awesome, mate. Good to see. Okay, where are we up to? I'm gonna skip this guy in the middle and come round now. So yeah, so I talked about G.I. Joe having soldiers, sailors, pilots, and marines. So I don't know what it is about like the military police, but with the Navy, the Shore Patrol is certainly my favourite outfit, and with the pilots, with the Air Force, I do really like the Air Police outfit. This is a combination of different sets. So the Air Police, really the Air Police only consisted of a helmet and a grey field telephone that you can see he's carrying just here, and a white cartridge belt. But then I've got the Air Force dress blues that I put on him, which is a beautiful uniform. Has again, I'm staring at it and I'm not showing you guys. It's got a light blue undershirt with a tie, and then the tunic and the trousers. Really, really nice figure. Yeah, it must be something about the white helmets maybe. I don't know. I've got 3 here. I've only just realised that. But yeah, so when I was sort of picking figures to bring down here, I thought I had to represent the Army, which I've already shown you a couple. Obviously, the Navy and the Air Force. So my Air Force pick, I probably would have brought down a Scramble Pilot if I had a G.I. Joe one. I've only got an Action Man one, but my next best choice was the Air Police. So yeah. Do you generally worry more about the helmets wearing down paint or flocking, or you don't think about it? No, I don't really think about it because, like the toys, they don't get played with. Anyone who's seen my collection tour video, they just sit behind glass cabinets on a shelf. I think the flocking and the paint's only going to wear off if a kid's constantly taking the helmets on and off and getting that play wear and doing that kind of damage. So, Joshua, thank you for your service in the military and for your channel. You're very welcome on both counts, mate. On both counts. Van Man, love the detail in the shirt and tie. Yeah, so do I. Quite reminiscent of the British officer from the Action Man line. The British officer, like the number 2 dress uniform. Really cool. Okay, where else are we up to? Alright, so I said that I was going to leave this figure for a moment. Cheers, everyone. This is probably... Now, my favourites do change from time to time. Like the Japanese, sometimes my favourite. Sometimes the German Stormtrooper. But today, when I got out of bed this morning, it was hands down the very, very rare G.I. Joe Marine Jungle Fighter. This is an extremely rare set from, I think, 1968. So this was sort of the year when, due to the backlash of the Vietnam War and all the sort of anti-war sentiment, that G.I. Joe moved away from the military stuff and into the adventure team, the more adventurous type stuff. And a lot of the stuff that came out in that kind of last military year is considered quite rare. But this is an exceptionally rare outfit. I've probably had this for about 5 years, I think. It's in really good condition. It's absolutely jam-packed with accessories. I'm going to give you guys a real good close-up look at this. So he's got a machete, a fighting knife, a first aid pouch on his belt. He's got a canteen cover on the belt. He's got the camouflage field telephone. Around this side, he's got a 45 pistol and holster, an M16, and of course a flamethrower. Because I mean, what jungle fighter doesn't need a flamethrower? I think what I love the most about this is the addition of the USMC badge above his pocket, the GI Joe badge, and the I'm not sure what rank that is. I think for like sergeant or first sergeant, something like that. If that was in the UK, he'd be a sergeant, but you Americans have so many different sergeants, I get confused. But just a tremendous figure. Again, you know, this is actually one of the few military guys who stands out amongst the other military guys because of the really unique shade of green that his uniform is made in. So, Kevin Kelly, looks like this is what the AM Australian Jungle Fighter is based off. Like, yes, it is. I don't. Did this come before the Australian Jungle Fighter from G.I. Joe? I think this came after. I think they made the Australian first, and then they stole the hat and the flamethrower, with the tanks on the back. Let's put it that way, where you can see the USMC badge on his chest there. Yeah, I think they took a few accessories from the Australian Jungle Fighter, then a few other accessories like the M16. And I think like the only really unique thing on this is the actual jacket and trousers. And trying to get a jacket and trousers that match in colour as well is very, very difficult. But this one, very, very pleased with it. It's not perfect. You probably can't see it on the camera here. There's a few sort of small damage marks around the knee of the trousers. But I don't care. Like trying to get these outfits absolutely perfect is near on impossible these days. It's probably a good. It's a better than average example, this one, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's catch up with some comments. Gary George Lewin, fantastic action, man. You have some great stuff. Thank you very much, George. Inside Vintage Toys, all of your figures are in immaculate condition. Do you buy them like that or perform some restoration cleaning, especially on the clothing? I did not buy this in this condition. I had to do quite a bit of work to this one. However, the Japanese guy I bought in that condition. I did pay a decent amount for the Japanese Imperial Soldier, but I got him nice, minty and complete. Same with this guy. Actually, most of these I did buy in nice, minty condition from sort of high-end collectors. I believe except for the Air Police, I had to do quite a bit of work. I think the shirt needed a lot of cleaning on that one. I cleaned that a number of times to get it looking nice again. So, Steve Black, do you have the Action Man Space Capsule? Yes, I do. I've got the Action Man Space Capsule in the box. Maybe I can bring that out on the next live stream. But yes, I have the Action Man Space Capsule. I love that toy. Jonathan Redmond, does anyone have a UK site link where I could get replacement hands and feet for an original Action Man? Rest of the figures in fantastic shape and would prefer to repair than replace. Jonathan, I do recommend, obviously beyond eBay, like everyone knows eBay, but certainly go onto Facebook and look up the Vintage Action Man Collectors Group on Facebook. Join that page. There's a lot of people out there who will help you repair toys. You should be able to purchase some of the parts from people. Definitely a great source for getting the bits and pieces you need to complete your Vintage Action Man figures. Lost and Wallace, ever have to do any sewing on the outfits? Yes. Often the small popper buttons, the stitching comes loose, and the number one reason that I know how to use a needle and thread is so that I can repair Action Man outfits. I got my mum to teach me how to thread a needle, how to sew a couple of stitches when I was younger, and I've been doing it ever since. But yeah, the main thing is, I think mainly where kids used to change their G.I. Joe and Action Man figures into different outfits, even if the outfits remained in good condition. The simple fact, once they got taken on and off a few times and the poppers got pulled apart, the poppers were metal, they were quite durable, but the stitching wasn't, and the stitching would pull apart. So a lot of the poppers on many of these outfits I've had to replace over the years. David Payne, as a kid I had a 12-inch scale desert themed Jeep including a scale Rhino. The Jeep had a hook on the front fender to catch the Rhino with. What's your favourite scaled Action Man vehicle? My favourite Action Man vehicle is more than likely the Action Man Land Rover. Pretty fond of that one. Dark Hay, the VAM group tempts me sometimes to get one of my UK friends to pick me up something and send me it. Great prices. Yeah, it's a great group. I highly recommend it. Cole's Toy Story. I love my Action Man. I'm not worried if used, as reminds me childhood. I played. Where out of them? Oh, Joseph. Sorry you're late. No apologies at all, mate. You can always watch the repro. The repro? I've got repro on the mind. You can always watch the replay. But yeah, I know. So I believe on the eastern states it's about 9 a.m. But for you it must be about 6 a.m. maybe. I don't know. Let me know what time it is where you are, Joseph. And then Tony, how often are the live streams, mate? So Van, I've already answered this question once, but there is kind of no set frequency to it. Probably about every 3 weeks, I would say. It's not easy for me to find the time to get everything set up, make sure I'm not busy with other family commitments and all that. But also the weekends is when I get most of my, I've got a regular day job like most other people. I work like 48 hours a week, 50 hours a week. So when the weekends come around, that's when I really need to devote my time to the Analog Toys content, the regular featured videos. So I would like to do the live streams more often, but about every 3 weeks. But I'll always keep you updated. I post it on the Facebook page. I post it on the community page of the YouTube channel, and also on Patreon. You'll know all about it. And if you go on to Patreon, you can also vote on the topic of the next live stream. So, Gary George Lewin, what's the most you have spent on one Action Man? I know I paid a fair bit for this Japanese guy here, but that's a G.I. Joe. The most I've ever paid for an Action Man, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't remember what figure. There's a few figures I've paid a bit for. A lot of the much rarer figures I've got, I've actually pieced together over the years from, I've bought big lots and a couple of rare bits have been in there and I've hung on to them and then I've slowly pieced together some of the rare outfits. But I would probably say the most I've ever paid, for some reason I've got like $600-700 in my head, but that's not common. It's not common that I spend that sort of money on any sort of toy. I actually think one of the most expensive toys I ever bought was the Robo Skull because I approached Bob Briggs. For those of you who haven't seen it, I did a sort of a documentary feature on how the Action Force Robo Skull was designed and developed, which was designed and developed by Action Man's chief designer Bob Brinkin. Now I got to know Bob very well when I made my Action Man documentary, and I knew that the Robo Skull was one of his favourite toy designs, and I reached out to him one day and said, look, I've got this idea for a video, but it's only going to work if you've got some sort of some background info or some sort of behind the scenes photos of how it was all designed. And Bob just, within a couple of days gave me a wealth of photographs, a written history on how we designed the Robo Skull, and I was like, oh man, I've got to make this video now, but I don't have a Robo Skull. And then I went out to purchase one. I was like, geez, these things are expensive. And I think I paid like $650 Australian, which is about 500 US. And to be honest, if ever I was going to spend that sort of money, it would normally go on a real, premium Action Man item. But in this case, it didn't. It went on a Robo Skull. But once I got it, I absolutely, I'm very, very pleased to own the Robo Skull, and it will not be leaving my collection again. Lost and Wallace, do you ever think about doing large displays of your figures, diorama setups? Do you have a room for that kind of thing? No, so I like my toys to look. A lot of my nostalgia sort of stems from the way that these toys looked when they were in toy stores. So that's why I don't really customize. I've customized a little bit of stuff, but I'm more interested in getting, this is how Hasbro sold the G.I. Joe Shore Patrol outfit in 1966 or whatever it was. That's how they sold it. So that's how I want it displayed. And I display in glass cabinets. But if you want to see some dioramas, definitely check out my Story of Action Man documentary, where I built some very big dioramas in which to display the figures and film them for that. So, but no, I'd rather display these on nice shelves, looking nice and pristine. I'm not really a diorama guy, so to speak. Peter James Ledwith, what do you think of Mego and Micronauts range? The movie is out soon, so interest will skyrocket. Yeah, I do like the Micronauts. Actually, Dave from Toy Polloi sent me a few in a gift box, well, I think last year sometime. But it wasn't something I was interested in as a kid, so I suppose I'm kind of indifferent about it. I don't know enough about it to really give you a good opinion. So, Joseph, if it hasn't been mentioned, your Green Berets episode is awesome and an excellent tribute. Love that you included the Ballad of the Green Beret. Thanks, Joseph. Man, that's one of my videos that I don't think gets enough love. I really, really enjoyed making that video. And I really enjoyed, putting the song in, the Ballad of the Green Beret and filming all the scenes that would go along with that. So I appreciate you saying that, man. It's one of my personal favourites. Carlos Escobar, excellent toy. Thanks for the information. You're very welcome. Michael Schaefer, agreed on the Green Beret song. It's a great song. It's a funny thing, when you edit videos, you have to re-watch the video countless times when you're editing it, and you edit the next 10 or 15 seconds and you go back and you check it's right and you go back again. Well, after editing my Green Berets video, and particularly the scene with the Ballad of the Green Berets song in it, I had that song stuck in my head for months, I think, after that. Months, because I listened to it probably 300 times while I was trying to edit the video together. So, Gary George Lewin, Tony, what do you think about Dragon action figure uniforms on Action Man? It's not for me, but if other people want to do it, more power to them, mate. No issue at all. Bill Pagan, I love Micronauts. Got in a loose Lobros complete last night. Bill, you got a Lobros. Now, the only reason I know Lobros from the Micronauts line is because a carded one appeared on the Toy Hunter TV show a number of years ago. And I think that carded one, he sold, obviously he bought it from someone for $200 and sold it for $700. That's what he did. That's what his show was all about, which is why I'm not exactly a fan. But yeah, that's a really, really expensive figure from what I remember. Am I correct? I hope you got a good deal on it, Bill. Lost and Wallace had the Barry Sadler Ballad of the Green Berets on 45 back in the day. Yeah. Yorktown Joe, greetings from Wisconsin. Thanks for all you do. You're very, very welcome. All right, guys, we've been going for a touch over an hour. I've talked about all the figures on the table, but it wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't pull something out from under the table. And not just my beer. I'm going to complete the set of box figures here with the Action Marine and the Action Pilot. The first boxed G.I. Joe I ever acquired was this guy right here, the Action Marine, from my very good friend Neil Taylor, who's a huge toy collector down in Perth. And really, when I was a young toy collector first getting into it, Neil really kind of taught me the ropes and pitfalls to avoid, and he taught me how to restore vintage boxes, how to restore vintage toys, particularly how to restore vintage clothing. He'd had this in his collection for a number of years, and I acquired this from him. So one of the things that is different from G.I. Joe to Action Man, and I'm talking about the boxes here, is the Action Man boxes had like a folding flap at the top. So you undid the flap and the figure came out and the box was one piece. Well, the G.I. Joe boxes are what we call like a shoebox styled coffin box. They're in two parts, where you have the lid, excuse that fly buzzing around, and inside here we've got an absolutely mint, hardly ever played with G.I. Joe Action Marine. This guy is mint, absolutely dead mint. He's absolutely gorgeous. I love this figure. Something that I will never ever get rid of because it was acquired from my good friend Neil. Just going to take the hat off. Let's get right up close. How mint is that figure? He's absolutely beautiful. The joints are all tight. Like I won't even, turn his hand at the wrist because he's that unplayed with. I don't touch it. Rarely comes out of the box. That's a special treat just for you guys on the live stream. So I did at one time own a G.I. Joe talking action soldier. Traded that on. The main reason being the box had a big rip in the middle, and it really detracted from it for me. And so I was kind of happy to trade it. I'd love to reacquire it. Actually, if I was to get, if I was going to get any of the talking G.I. Joes, it would be the Marine because I love the box. And then my brain went, no, but you love the pilot and you love the sailor. And actually, I would love to acquire another talking G.I. Joe, which came in a slightly wider, I don't think it was taller, I think it was the same height, but a slightly wider box. And the artwork on those boxes is just stunning. I would love to own a G.I. Joe talking Action Marine one day. So that's my collection of the original 1964 boxed G.I. Joes with the sailor, the soldier, the pilot, and the Marine. Catch up with some comments. The artwork is insane. Yeah, the artwork is insane. The artwork is gorgeous. I mean, let's give you a look at the pilot. That will. So that's the G.I. Joe Action Pilot in all of his glory. And that's beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful artwork, beautiful figures design. Just a top quality product. I can imagine being a kid in 1964 and seeing this. This was not a cheap toy. This was top quality, and I would have been proud to have owned one of these back in the 60s. Okay, George Alexander, do you have the G.I. Joe USS Flag aircraft carrier? No, George, I don't. But I really want one. I really want one. That's probably one of my holy grail pieces. I doubt I'll ever get one though, because I don't believe many of them ever came to Australia. They wouldn't be easy to get here. So for me to get one, I've got to get one from the States. And when you're looking at $200-300 just for shipping on an item that's probably going to cost you upwards of $1,000, it just prices it right out for me. But you never know. Stranger things have happened. I never thought I'd get a full Kenner Indiana Jones toy line, but there you go. I've got one now. So Cole's Toy Story. Do you think collecting is getting out of hand as I cut down mine now? So more happy as buying everything now. Just collect the ones I connect with. Yeah, sorry. So what Cole's asking me here is, when collecting gets out of hand and you just start buying everything, and then your collection gets too big. And I've been seriously collecting. I mean, it started with Action Man, but ended up with sort of all sorts of vintage toys. But I've been seriously collecting since 1994, and over that time, my collection has gotten big, and then I've sold some stuff off, and I've come back and forward sort of so many times. Now I'm fortunate enough to be in a place in my life where I don't even buy toys regularly. Like when the right thing comes along, I'll pick it up. But I'm not one of these guys. Like back in the day, man, I'd come home from work and I'd just be on eBay all night, looking at eBay, buying stuff. Um, so I can't even remember the last toy that turned up in the post. It would be an Evel Knievel piece. I don't think I've had a single toy turn up in the post since I finished filming Evel Knievel a while ago. So I'm in a pretty happy place now where, I like to have my collection around, but I don't have this burning desire to keep going and buying more and more stuff. What does play havoc with that a little bit though is the toy channel, because when I make the videos for the channel, if there's a certain toy that I want to include in the video, then I have to go out and I have to purchase that toy. And yeah, in a way, it's been good. The channel has actually really steered my collecting where I'm like, no, just because that's a bargain, I'm not going to pick that up today, because and I was saying this for ages, all I'm buying at the moment is Evel Knievel stuff. Well, that's finished now. On to the next thing. I don't know what the next thing is yet. Big part of me wants to start collecting Ghostbusters, but we'll see how we go. Would you ever consider collecting some of the newer 1/6 scale military figures, or you're strictly vintage? I've collected newer stuff in the past and I've ended up just trading it on again. I'm pretty much strictly vintage. That's for me. Anthony, what toys do you think kids of today would be nostalgic for in 20 to 30 years from now? Well, I don't think kids are really that much into toys. I think if anything, it's going to be Lego. I think they're going to be nostalgic for some of the more, like I know within the Star Wars line at the moment, I saw recently they're doing it's like a 20th anniversary series. I was looking at a Slave One, a Boba Fett Slave One Lego set in Kmart just yesterday. It's about $140 or something, and it had some 20-year logo on there. I think it's maybe 20 years of Lego Star Wars or something. I don't know, but yeah, I think that'll be the only sort of thing that kids are into, feel nostalgia for when they're older. Certainly for my son, like he's not into any of it. He's into video games, and I think perhaps he'll probably be into retro video games when he's older, because that's his thing. So, Robert Chattel, I love collecting and have been for nearly 30 years now. Yeah, I've pretty much been collecting my whole life, but seriously collecting since 1994, so that's 25 years, so we're getting pretty close there. Buy quality over quantity, that's my collecting philosophy. That's a good philosophy, Loston. A very good philosophy. What else have we got here? Gen X, you don't look old enough to have been into Action Man and 1/6 G.I. Joe. When I was younger, we only knew about the smaller scale Joes. You've collected since 1964. No, I haven't collected since 1964. I was born in 1977. And growing up, I had Star Wars toys, I had He-Man, but my big passion was Action Man, which ended in 1984 when I was 7. But it was when I got into collecting later, and I started to learn that Action Man was born from G.I. Joe. I just got really, really interested in G.I. Joe and just started collecting. And yeah, I don't actively collect G.I. Joe now. Like I've got the pieces that I like. I'm sure every now and again, I'll see an item will come up at a reasonable price. Like it's never ever cheap, but if it's quite reasonable and it's a nice condition set, and I can't sometimes just can't pass it up, and I have to go and buy it. So Um, William Curry, I don't really see anyone getting the Star Wars or other figure very much. Lego makes sense as that seems to be what kids are getting now. I think Lego's going to be about the only. If people are collecting toys when we're older, it's going to be Lego stuff. I think there's just not anything else around that's really had such a massive cultural impact as what GI Joe did, and then what Action Man did, and then what Star Wars did, and then what He Man did. New toy lines coming out today just don't have that widespread cultural impact that's going to inspire another generation of collectors. Gary's Action Man channel, will you ever do a video on 90s Action Man? Maybe. Maybe I will. Again, when I make videos, I like to have the toys myself so I can film them. But I did buy a lot of 90s Action Man stuff when it was coming out. In fact, I bought heaps of it when it was coming out. I don't have any of it now. But I do. My same collector friend in Perth who's got Big Jim has a quite large collection of 90s Action Man. So potentially I will. We'll see. Do you think the right Adventure Team piece for the right price would make you catch the bug to start into that a little bit more? Yeah, certainly. Certainly. I bought a boxed G.I. Joe Sea Adventurer a couple of years ago because it was at a really bargain price. The reason it was a bargain price is I think the upper bicep of the arm had broken. Well, when you've been collecting as long as me, you've got rummage boxes and spare bits boxes, and I've got a box full of just broken parts. And I was able to sort of remove the shoulder joint from the figure, which had, I'm sure it was the bicep or something. Yeah, the bicep was quite badly cracked, like you couldn't repair it. So I just changed out that one part, and then I had a complete figure, and I, got it for far less than what it would have done if it was minty and complete. But I ended up trading it on. So, Robert Chattel, do you have both version of Atomic Man Mike Powers? No, I've got the Action Man version of Atomic Man. I don't have the G.I. Joe Mike Powers Atomic Man. And Robert, he says, I just recently acquired the American version, but I definitely want to get the one from Action Man. Well, you've got the American one, and I've got the Action Man one, so there you go. I would like to get the G.I. Joe version, so I'd be very interested in that. All right, guys, well, I'm going to wrap it up here very soon. Cheers. I've got one last thing to show you. And that is the wooden G.I. Joe footlocker. This is cool. So when this came out, I think this was a 1966 product. Don't quote me on that, I might be wrong. But basically one of the guys at Hasbro, after G.I. Joe's first couple of years have been really successful, and a lot of parents were complaining that the kids were losing the G.I. Joe accessories and parts, and this guy said, well, I was in the army, and I think he was in the Korean War or something, and he said, well, I used to keep all of my stuff in a footlocker, so why don't we make a footlocker for G.I. Joe? And it was designed, obviously this is a lot bigger than a footlocker if you scale it down, but the design of this was big enough that a kid who had a couple of G.I. Joes could actually, so he can keep all of the accessories in there. So there's a sticker on the back. Can you see that? Yeah, there's a sticker on the back that shows the M1 rifle, the carbine, the cartridge belt, the entrenching tool, mess kit, canteen, the fatigue hat, field radio. I'm not going to go through it all. But there's a sticker up there showing you all the equipment, so a kid could easily identify what piece of equipment went in each part of the plastic tray. And as you see here, I hope I don't spill anything. Scary prospect. Can you see that? Mine is complete. I've got all the vintage accessories in there. So all the accessories in there, and yeah, as I said, the reason that they designed the footlocker like this is so that they could take a child could take a couple of his G.I. Joes and actually store them, and it basically became their own mini toy box for G.I. Joe. One of my favourite pieces. I really want to get an Action Man one of these, which is pretty much the same. The main difference being it's got the Action Man logo on there, not the G.I. Joe logo. I've actually got a couple of the G.I. Joe ones. I've got 2 wooden ones and I've got a vinyl one that was issued later. The other 2 I've got are not decked out with all the accessories like this. Like this is not easy to get. You know, these accessories are quite hard to find. I mean, these days just the M1 rifle can be quite pricey, and I mean another particularly pricey item is the bayonet. The entrenching tool is not cheap. That metal popper looks a little bit corroded. I'm not even going to try and open that. What else have we got in here? So you got the field telephone. The field telephone opened up and actually had a telephone handle in there for the field telephone for the communication set. So guys, well, the footlocker is in decent shape. Tray isn't cracked. Oh, the tray's a little bit cracked on the edge here, just where the metal latch hits it. But yeah, other than that, it's not too bad. There you go. There's the metal latch. Bill Pagan. Okay, I've never seen one of those before. Very nice. Yeah, it's a very unusual and a very cool piece, and something that I'm very, very proud to have in my collection. Dials. It's a genius to keep it so masculine compared to a Barbie closet or wardrobe. 100%. 100%. Yeah, G.I. Joe didn't need a closet. G.I. Joe had to have a footlocker with an M1 and a carbine and a 45 and holster in it and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, guys. Another awesome live stream. Thank you all for watching. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you guys, answering your questions, and discussing Bob Trayton. Okay, you're going to get blocked later on. Apologies for these comments, mate. That's not very nice. Man, I've just had a really good live stream, and then some guy wrote some horrible comments up there and just kind of ruins it. But don't worry, Bob. I'll deal with you later. Yeah. Thanks very much for watching, guys. It's been awesome chatting to you about my G.I. Joe collection. As I said, I think I've got all up. I've got about 22 figures, a few more Action Marines. I've also got the Army military police guy and all that stuff. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend. What's left of it, anyway. I'll be watching the UFC tomorrow, and as soon as the UFC is finished, which will be around lunch, just after lunchtime for me here in Australia, as soon as the UFC is finished, I'm going to continue editing my new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video, which will hopefully drop on Patreon later in the week. So, yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.